Hello folks, Adventure Cowboy here. I'm about to go do a little winter camp, and I just thought I'd show you some of the stuff that I take. This isn't every little thing I carry in my pack, but some of the stuff that I always have when I'm out in the cold weather in the winter. Food wise, I'll start off, these are expensive, but I like to take them. Mountain House meals. This one is chicken breast with rib meat. This one's just a little bit more expensive, but if you look at it, it's got 24 grams of protein per serving versus the 12 grams that's in most of them. This one is chili mac. Everybody, if you get online and you look at the reviews, everybody says that the chili mac's awesome, except for the side effects that come the next day from it or a little later on. I always carry a contractor bag or a couple contractor bags, 3 mil thick. One of the reasons for that is during hunting season, if it's hot out, I don't care what anybody says, this works. Get a heavy contractor bag. If it's hot and you're worried about your meat spoiling, find some water. And around here we don't have any problem with that. We got lots of water. Find some water. Put the quarter in this bag or the meat. Tape the top up tight so where water isn't getting in the bag and on the meat. Submerge it in the water as long as it's like 40 degrees or less. And you can keep it cool. That way you don't kill something and have to get it off that day, the whole thing. Because a lot of times when you're in the backcountry by yourself, you got to pack it out. That's just not an option. So contractor bags, absolutely handy thing to have. You can use it for a number of different things. You can even pop a hole on top of it and couple holes in the sides and have a raincoat. MSR pocket rocket. I absolutely love this thing. I've looked at a lot of different models. This one had excellent reviews. It's in a handy little case, durable. This little screen right here is just kind of a windscreen. I've never had any problems with this cooking food. It takes a little bit longer in the wind to cook something, but every time works like a charm. A great little addition to your cooking. These things taste horrible. It's kind of a developed taste, these Cliff Bars, but they are dense. And if you just need some fuel in you, they're a good thing to have. I'm hoping somebody doesn't comment and say, well, environmentalists or granolas or whatever support, Cliff supports environmentalist causes or anti-hunting causes. Moving on, I always carry lots of water, most of the time in bottles. I don't really like the bladders. I've had bad experiences with the bladders, even the ones with the insulated hoses. They freeze up in cold temperatures. I always got this, and it's in my pack, in the pocket that's close to my back. I've never had this freeze yet. I always carry it inside my little stainless steel cup. They make titanium ones, but this works just fine. Got little fold-out handles. This is 2 cups, so it's the exact amount of water you need for these Mountain House meals. I guess depending on which Mountain House meal you get, they make different sizes. Batteries and super glue. Super glue you can use for tons of stuff, including cuts. Burns a little, but it works. I call these my chains. If I'm in a slippery situation and have to cross a lot of ice, I put my chains on. Just Yaktrax. This is just a possibles bag I keep in a little hidden compartment in my backpack. Gloves, tape, extra batteries, and a lighter, some moleskin. That backpack is a Badlands 2800. They have a lot of different packs. They're phenomenal packs. I've had a lot of good experience with them. That pack just happens to fit what I do a lot. I've packed out, without taking anything out of my pack, I've packed out the rear quarters of a moose, and I've packed out lots of elk with it. So it's a very good, durable pack. I have sent it back in. They have an unconditional lifetime warranty. No matter what happens, they'll fix it. I did break a buckle with the rear quarter of that moose. They fixed it no problem. Just trying to get through this. This is my fire starting kit. I'm not going to get into too much crazy stuff. Matches, lighters, a couple different sources of ignition. I got some paper towels and non-glossy newspaper. Do not use the glossy advertised ones. They don't work when you really need them to. This is a little odd, but I think I'm going to start using them a little bit more. I got this idea a while ago. I'm sure a lot of people have it, but it's a pencil sharpener. And one of the things that attracted me to this, here, I'll grab a little stick here. No matter where you go, if it's timbered, you can always find sticks. Little stick, and you're making, just start sharpening it just like you would a pencil. And you're making fabulous tinder. Absolutely fabulous. Now, I wouldn't recommend this one. There's the old school ones. I don't even know if they still make them. The aluminum ones with the small hole and the big hole for those great big fat pencils. Those are the best. Just collect the shavings in a baggie or something so they don't blow away and use that for your tinder. That's just a handy little thing I've had. Another thing, my absolute favorite fire starter in the world, no matter what weather, wet, cold, Remington gun oil wipes. Oil up your gun, wipe down some of your dry little kindling sticks, shove this under the pile of your initial pile when you start building your fire, of your kindling and tinder, and it's more of a cloth than a paper, so it burns for a little while. Absolutely fabulous. I've never not been able to start a fire with that. Come in individual packages. They probably cost 50 or 60 cents a piece, I think. But they're just so handy. They're light. They don't weigh anything. I always keep 5 or 6 of them in my fire starting kit, and then sometimes I have them stashed away in another spot in my pack just in case. Another thing, I left the label on this, because a lot of people won't believe that I would buy this stuff. A lot of times you go into a backpacking store or an outdoor store, and the serious backpackers avoid that cheap section of camping stuff, the Coughlin stuff. I don't avoid it. Fact is, you have to be careful what you're getting, but some of it actually works really good, and it's cheap enough you can test and see if it works. These storm matches cost me $1.89. 25 matches, supposed to be windproof and waterproof. They're fairly windproof, but come in a little container. There's sandpaper on the top and on the bottom for striking them. A little bit of cotton in there to use for tinder. For $1.89, that's pretty cheap compared to some of these other places like REI. You buy the stormproof matches in their fancy container. You don't have to spend a lot of money to go spend some time in the winter in the backcountry. Just do some homework ahead of time. Find out stuff that works, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to do it. Just look for the good values. As always, I got my little magnesium and flint fire starter just in case. I always have lots of lighters. Bic lighters, just the small ones. First aid kit, yeah, it's not in a fancy bag or anything, but I like it because it's malleable, meaning I can form it to fit however I need to in my pack. Works great. I always have triple antibiotic ointment in there, along with Benadryl. Any pain pills, vitamins, anything like that, I always just keep in here in separate baggies. Little kid scissors. They're handy. They work really good for cutting moleskin. These, I haven't used these a lot, but I have had to a couple times. I had a hunter that I was guiding, and a sling broke, and I was able to put it together with these zip ties. I just put them in my pack, lengthwise against my back. You never even know that they're there, but you never know when you're going to need them. You hear a lot of people talk about saws and hatchets and huge knives and for batoning. I am not a huge fan, I guess, of the knives. They're great. I've done it, but honestly, I have this little Gerber Hatchet. I don't have anything bad to say about this. Some people have experience with breaking the handles and stuff. I've never done that. This has cut through a lot of wood, a lot of bone on elk and stuff if we're taking them out, without deboning them. We'll split them down the spine. That thing has been invaluable. So I'm not going to cuss it like a lot of people do. I don't build a lot of fires by sawing firewood chunks and then batoning or chopping through the wood. You hear people say, well, it won't burn if if you don't have angled surfaces. Well, that's just not true. I build fires, many fires during the year in all different kinds of climate conditions. And the trick is just finding some dry wood. And you can find dry wood in wet conditions. If you cannot, then do some splitting if you have to. But I try not to waste much energy if I can help it. I do have this Nap sports saw. It's got a little gunk on it. This thing is old. I mean, it's got a little compartment in here. You can put fishing hooks and survival type gear in it. I never keep anything in there. This was my dad's, and it originally had a knife point on the top of it, but that kept going through the sheath, so I ground that off. Hand sanitizer. You get blood on your hands, you want to use hand sanitizer to get that off. I'm one person that's got... Sorry, there's a truck going by. I am one person that has had E. coli from eating off of hands that weren't clean. If you've never had E. coli poisoning, it's similar to Giardia. Let's just say you do not want it. It's painful and it's very inconvenient. Toilet paper, as always. I usually have quite a bit more. Nobody likes to talk about that in their camping essentials, but you need it. GPS, this is a Magellan Explorer 100. It's several years old. Pretty cheap model, but it works. This was actually given to me by a hunter that I was guiding who couldn't figure out how to work it. But it's actually quite simple. It doesn't have the mapping feature, but for example, we were in the middle of a burn. We had to take off our packs and go after some elk. I marked the spot where I put my pack in the middle of this burn, and I was just hoping that it was accurate enough so that I could find it. And it led me right back to it. I mean, we went probably a mile away. In a burn, if you've never been in a burn hunting in the fall, every tree looks the same. So this has proved great. I never really used one before last year. I know my country pretty good. I never worry about getting lost. Simple, common sense, especially when you're in this part of the country. Every mountain range is running northwest, southwest, except for one, and that range is running straight east and west. All you got to do is follow the creek down, you're going to hit a road. Knife sharpener. These are the Smith's knife sharpeners. They have one that has a handle and a guard on it that you drag through. I've used that a lot. I actually kind of wore it out. So I'm trying this one. I actually like this one better so far because you have your regular carbide blades and your ceramic for getting that fine edge on your knife. And it's small. Chop, put a cat. Another thing from Coughlin's. This is a sewing kit that I had never really given much thought to till last year when I tore a critical seam in my hunting pants, and I didn't have any way to sew it up, and I really needed to. So I went and found this sewing kit in the Coughlin's section. Again, $1.89. It's got 50 yards of thread and 8 buttons, some snaps, some safety pins, straight pins, needles, needle threader, and thimble, and a little pair of scissors. There's a lot of stuff you could do with that. Throw in some dental floss. You could even do some stitching on cuts if you had to. Emergency. Always have black tape. Always have black tape in my pack. Something you don't see a lot of people carry in their pack. And I don't all the time, but sometimes it's nice. WD-40 in a pen. I don't like carrying a can around to lubricate my saw blades or what have you. But this works in a pinch, but it's actually also a pretty decent fire starter. Wipe it on some sticks. And you always got to have a multi-tool. This is a cheap one. I have lots of them. This just happens to be one that I had handy. American Camper brand. Leatherman's, Gerber's. One of my favorites right now is a Snap-on. Really like it. Always got some cordage. Lights. I haven't really gone over lights. I didn't bring my headlamp. It's actually in the vehicle with my wife right now. Just cheap flashlight, you know. You always got to have a backup. If the headlamp, if your batteries go out in your headlamp and you're in a pitch black, it's kind of inconvenient to be digging around in your pack trying to find the AAA batteries and then get the cap off of your headlamp and put the batteries in their way they're supposed to be, especially when it's cold and you can't feel your fingers. Always have a backup. Always, always, always have a backup light source. I carry a headlamp, this, also a mini mag light, and sometimes 2 headlamps. I've been caught out in the dark and the cold before, and it's not going to happen again. This is just a cheap Maxim knife. They're kind of a cheap brand, but I tell you what, I've dressed a lot of elk with this thing, and it holds an edge fair. Bear spray. A lot of guys from this neck of the woods you'll hear them say, well, I just carry my 44 Magnum. You know what? I'm not going to carry a gun big enough to take down a grizzly on me all the time. There's just times I can't. I don't need to. And this, if you look up the statistics online, I hate to say it, I'm a gun nut, but if you look up the statistics online, this is more effective than a gun in a bear attack. A combination of the two is ideal. One thing you got to remember about bear spray is if that bear is upwind of you and the wind's blowing in your face, you are going to get burnt. Your eyes are going to be burning. So it's going to get you and the bear. Space blanket. Everybody should have one of those, especially in this country. They don't weigh anything. This is just a custom knife my sister-in-law made. I made the sheath. I just like it. It's heavy and well built. These are Kenneth Gators. I don't use these a lot, but certain times of the year I do. They're just good quality. You can buy some of the cheaper ones that have a strap that goes under your foot that's more nylon. And I've had a lot of clients who will be out chasing elk, and they'll be walking around with a snowball under their foot because they've got a nylon strap that snow is freezing to. The Yaktrax, I've never had that happen to. The snow comes off. These are Army surplus trigger finger mittens. Now, they might look stupid, but you want to talk about something that keeps your hands warm and gives you some versatility. It's got a trigger finger deal on it. If it's cold and you're not pulling a trigger, don't use it. Put all your fingers together so they can keep each other warm. But they've got a string that goes over your shoulders through your sleeves, holds them both together, so you can take them off and you don't have to worry about them falling in the snow. They just hang from your arms till you put them back on. Well, that's some of my loadout for this trip I'm taking here in the next couple days. I've got some more stuff that I left out, but I just didn't have time to put it together here. So, I'm signing off. Join me, the Adventure Cowboy, for a camping trip up in the mountains. It's a winter camping trip, and even though it's winter, there isn't that much snow, so probably not going to look that rough. But we'll catch you next time.